going to be talking about deck building. And while some of you do not have the League Battle decks or the Battle Arena decks that come out every so often, you can still build decks. And while I am getting used to this deck, we should be talking about your guys' decks to help you guys out with building decks. And I'll give you some tips and tricks that are more effective when going through and building your decks. And so, also, if you do want to see more battle videos, because I am definitely going to be doing some battles with my new Pokémon deck that I've gotten, please hit the like button. And also, subscribe to the channel and ring the notification bell to know when I upload a new battle video to show you that cool Pokémon deck. So, why am I talking about building decks? Well, the simple reason is, some of you guys don't have the money to buy this Pokémon deck. And while that is a little bit bad, and you're just like, oh, well, that's too bad, you can still build decks. And for those of you wanting to build decks, you can build decks around most anything. And the card I'm going to be using today is Rayquaza EX. Laying around in my collection, not very useful to me, but you can make it useful. Most decks can be made useful because if you work hard enough, you can get the right cards to make it synergize. So, how do we get Rayquaza EX to be powerful? Well, it has the Arrow Scream attack, which does 130 damage for 4 energy, and flips a coin, and then if tails, you discard 2 energy attached to this Pokemon. That can be easily solved with Welder, and you can get energy attached to it very easily. And it also has the Great Mega Ascension attack for double colorless energy, which is the predecessor of Twin Energy, for those of you that are new. Double colorless energy attached to it, and that's the single attachment. You get to search for Mega Rayquaza EX. You're going to want Mega Rayquaza EX because it has a powerful attack that does damage for benched Pokemon. I can't remember if it's your opponent or you personally. So, then we've chosen what kind of energy we're going to be using, right? And we've chosen our strategy with Rayquaza. So, what do we do next? What is useful to us next? Well, next up we have trainer cards. And the most important of them, while there is card draw that you're going to need, and there is also cards that help evolutions and energy searching, there's also Pokemon Search. Pokemon Search is the issue I've seen with a lot of decks, and Pokemon Search allows you to find your Pokemon. And while you're not going to be filling the deck to the brim with Pokemon, you still want Pokemon Search. Because trainer cards, I recommend about 30 to 35 cards to be trainer cards in your deck. Because trainer cards allow you to draw cards, get cards, and do everything you need to. You wouldn't be able to get Rayquaza's attack without using something like Welder. Same thing with everything else. But Pokemon Search allows you to find Pokemon like Dedenne GX, and while Greyball is not the perfect example, there are quite a few other cards that will help your deck out a lot. And the second most important type of trainer card is drawing cards. You need to draw cards to get cards to do stuff. That's how it works in the TCG. And without that, you're not going to be doing anything while your opponent is rolling away and stealing the game from you. You don't want that, do you? Drawing cards will solve that problem, get you cards you need, and I would say around 10 is the starting decks. Starting decks really love more. I do have 6 in my Darkrai deck, but that's only because I could reuse them. So, what else do you need? You also need Gusting. ML Custom Catcher may be the worst example I could put up there. Custom Catcher is a great example of what you're supposed to do. Because if you play 2 of it, you switch your opponent's bench Pokemon with one of their active Pokemon. So, then, therefore, you can choose what Pokemon you knock out. So if your opponent has a single prize Pokemon, like maybe Audino, then you're going to switch it out for something more accessible, like the Dene GX. And because of that, you're going to get more cards and more cards as prizes, and you're going to win the game faster. And gusting is a really good thing to have in your deck. But what about Pokemon? How am I going to fill my deck with Pokemon if I'm just focusing on that one Pokemon? Well, you shouldn't. There are some great examples of support Pokemon, and I've already mentioned most of them. But supporting your deck with other Pokemon is a great thing to do. Audino is a great card for card draw, because it says once during your turn, if this Pokemon is your active Pokemon, you may draw a card. And then, if you have Tabagogo, it's really good for a spread deck, because for two energy that are colorless, which can be paid with something like double colorless, you can do 20 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon. Great attack for spread decks that like to spread damage around. Also, you have the Pokemon like Dedenne, or Shaman, or Crobat V that's coming out in Darkness Ablaze. And this allows you to get synergy when you've already used or can't use a supporter. So, the Pokemon in that deck really help out. And I'd say 10 to 20. 10 to 20 is the range you're going to want. 10 with a basic deck, but 20 or more if it's a hard evolution deck, like a 2-stage evolution deck. And I have around 15 in my deck because I'm partially 15 down in my Darkrai deck right here. One sec. Right here, because I have some evolutions, but I don't support it as much. So you're going to have multiple Pokemon, but you're going to have less because my deck is mostly a basic deck. And Pokemon space is a very important thing because you're going to want the right Pokemon. And sometimes Pokemon are good in niche situations, but sometimes they're not. And next up, the last thing I have to mention is energy cards. Energy cards are going to be the main focus of your deck, the thing you're going to want to change the most besides trainer cards, because energy cards allow you to attack and do other special things. And energy cards are going to be the way you do stuff. Now, there are some tips and tricks I have in my decks that allow me to do stuff that most people wouldn't see very often. Some examples is Versus Seeker, which lets me get rid of some cards in my deck because I just have to discard a supporter, and I can use it for 4 more times because I have 4 Versus Seeker in this deck. Also, I have Energy Acceleration that allows me to attach more than 1 energy per turn. Max Elixir, Hydreigon, and also Yveltal. If you haven't seen my deck profile on this deck, then you definitely should go check that out. It explains everything in my Darkrai deck, but if you don't want to see that, it's fine. There are other videos on the channel like that to help you out see some tips in my decks that I have. And these cards allow me to get energy fast because, well, you usually do want Energy Acceleration. This deck really wants it because their power is based on the energy they have. And without energy, they're powerless, which really strains you when you're fighting against a 2-turn attack deck. So how do you solve this? Tons of Energy Acceleration. I can get 3 energy per turn out on the battlefield 4 turns in a row if I get this 3-turn combo. And then I can get a 4th energy because of attachments. This is the deck that I've really developed to be accelerant, but the thing is, you can't always be accelerant because sometimes you get dead hands. The problem with dead hands is they're not the most fun thing. You can't really do stuff with them, but you have to stick with them in games. And you want to make sure that you limit the amount of dead hands you can have. I can say confidently that my Darkrai deck has the most dead hands out of all of my decks. It just is so without supporters, and also so much with energy that's really unbalanced. So be wary of that. If you get too many dead hands, you might want a few more extra cards. My solution is to get some support Pokemon. Maybe like the Dene GX in my deck. I don't have the best support Pokemon, so adding something like the Dene GX into my deck would help it out a lot. But anyway, guys, I need to know what you guys think. Build your own decks. Show me how it works. Battle with your friends. Share them this video. And also, as always, I'm your local Cardian. Good day and good night.